Hello, it's Brad Laurie, and today I'm honoured to speak with Ariel Ling. She is the co-founder and COO of Bitmax. Ariel, thank you very much for your time today.
Hi, Bradley. How are you? Thank you very much for having me.
And likewise, now I know that you're very busy. It was actually very challenging to get you on the channel because you're doing so much. A lot's happening with Bitmax right now, and there's a lot of buzz in the crypto domain. But let's start with you firstly, Ariel. Your background, I've read through your resume. It's quite substantial. Can you give us a quick recap on your experience?
Oh, so I actually quite different from the traditional crypto, players. I come from, Wall Street with more than 18-year experience across business development, strategy, different trading aspects of it, as well as regulatory implementation across all major asset class from equities, fixed income to FX. So 18-year experience, and I've worked across multiple top-tier investment banks. So before heading up joining the Bitmax.io, I was actually the former America head of liquidity and investment product for a tier 1 investment bank in the United States. So working with a lot of financial institutions and the corporates on the investment.
Right, so 2 decades of serious experience in the Wall Street and financial sector.
Yes.
In that context, you also have a license. Can you talk us through the importance of that in what you're doing?
One of my key aspects of my prior life is really about running and building up trading business, especially in equity. And as you know, in the United States, to run a trading business it's very regulatory markets, and most people who are actually trading securities must have their license. It's basically being issued by FINRA, and you might have heard it's the Series 7 for sales and trading, and the Series 24 for trading principal license, which pretty much is the baseline regulatory requirement you have to meet in order to manage and supervise a trading business.
Right. Now
so in my prior life, I was actually the chief operating officer for a U.S. broker-dealer of the second largest German bank.
I see.
So responsible for all the entire investment bank business and operation.
Right. Now, clearly that experience is going to be imperative for what you're building now as a co-founder with George as well. Can you talk us through Bitmax now? Let's go down into the real core values, the core vision and the core purpose of Bitmax. What is it all about?
Yeah, so Bitmax.io is actually part of our global digital mercantile platform. And Global Digital Mercantile is actually a global operators of multiple different digital asset trading platforms. And it was actually founded last year around Q1 with the purpose of serving the users from globally. And Bitmax.io is the first exchange platform that we launched based in Singapore and serving overseas market. By overseas, I mean basically outside several regulatory markets, including United States and Canada. And it's a crypto to crypto. And trading basically from a vision and the mandates perspective, when we build out, initially Bitmax.io, an overall global entity network around global digital mercantile, a couple of things we have on our mind. One, we want to really leverage our deep-rooted Wall Street quantitative trading experience. So when we build a digital asset trading platform, we would like to really make it very innovative and very transformational. So the platform is the institutional grade platform and architecture by all the, my team is basically coming from quant trading background. And from a mission perspective, we definitely during build out of the business and the platform, we have relentless focus on 3 things: transparency, reliability, and quality. It goes not just our trading platform, also our trading product, as well as how we serve our clients. By clients, I meant our users, our communities, our projects, our investors, and everybody who uses products from the Bitmax.io ecosystem. And one step further, because our team, the founding team, comes from the Wall Street, so we always seek collaboration across traditional finance and blockchain, and really hope that we can actually set a good example and then lead a very progressive future for crypto trading.
Right. Now, I'm just
So
going to interject for a moment. So you've mentioned
yeah.
two important things. One is
Mhm.
registration in Singapore. Is that where you're currently registered? Is that
Yeah, Bitmax.io is registered in Singapore.
Okay. Now, also with reference to your partners, you've alluded to traditional business in that sector. No doubt some partners also reflect the kind of stance you take on integrating with real business.
The partners, if you're referring to George, yes, I know George for almost 10 years.
Right.
And they both come from equity trading, background. And the founding team members we have 10 of them. And they all come from basically the top tier investment banks, as well as the top tier buy side asset management firms, the hedge funds.
Right.
And with a very, very deep experience in basically computer science, technology, quant building, statistics. And if we look at the 10 members, when we combine all the years of experience, it's actually more than 150, close to 150 years of experience. And so it's always, we said, our team is a little bit different from the typical crypto trading people out there. Very young, very bright. We're very seasoned, and we've got a lot of experience.
Sure. Now, Ariel, you also have about 60 members on your team. That's substantial for any crypto-related project or startup. Business model and token economics, what we're hoping to do in the future is have a big discussion, you and I, about that, and we will do that in a subsequent interview. But I wanted to talk to you with regard to the token itself. Are you confident that you can articulate to all people and listeners that you are indeed a utility token?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at, yes, absolutely, because when we register with the thing in Bitmax.io, when we're looking at the BTMX from a token utilization perspective, comes down to the utility of token. What that means is most important thing, as we've alluded to before, is about ecosystem. And there's three aspects of token economics. When you're looking from a utility token perspective, number one is really about viable business model. So we're exchange. So what is our business model? We're actually providing a platform for the users to trade on our platform, right? So where the revenue comes from? Revenue comes from commissions, and our cost actually is running the platform, right? So the more you trade, the more commission we get. As long as the commission can cover our operating costs, it's a good business model, right? So the token economics should reflect that. So when you look at the BTMX as the token, we actually, how you get the token is by basically trading our platform. So that's a reflection of that. Right. Second, when you're looking at utility token, being utility meaning the token has to be utilized on the platform. So if you go to bitmax.io, you will see many usage for our token. You can pay for the transaction fees, and there's various way you actually get different benefits by doing lockup and by actually paying the BTMX for different benefits, different memberships. And right now we just launched the pre-sale for DOS network. Also, you can use BTMX for pay for that. And we launched margin trading. Same thing. If you use the BTMX, you actually can get your interest reduced. So we've always come up way for our users and traders on our platform to use our BTMX. Now, the one last thing, not the least but not last, is actually the reverse mining itself. So this is where you mine the BTMX outright. By doing reverse mining, you not only get a rebate, you actually get to return the equivalent value of your rebate in BTMX back to us.
Right.
Subsequently, reducing the supply. So again, you can use the BTMX.
And that's a big deal for a few different reasons. One is it incentivizes beyond some of the other exchange platforms we do currently see. Some of them have very extensive volume. You've made it clear in previous discussions, you're not about competition, you're not about worrying about what other markets are doing, but certainly that aspect of the reverse mining is adding a third generation element to exchanges. Can you talk us through why this particular part could change the game arguably in the exchange arena?
Very good question, and I really appreciate it that you give some kind of some recognition for our reverse mining. So the idea actually comes from the traditional exchange model. So if you go to New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, pretty much any sophisticated equity exchange, they are always encouraging market makers to provide liquidity to the market. And one of the program they have is called liquidity provision. So by doing by market making, providing liquidity on the exchange, you get rebate versus you actually paying. So when we look at the reverse mining, the original idea actually comes from that liquidity provision program from the sophisticated mature exchange. And then what we did, especially George, he actually extended his thought process further, meaning, okay, so we give people we give people rebates for making the markets, right? For providing the liquidity, the maker trade in this particular case.
Right.
So how do we link that to our own token? How do we actually have a better ecosystem so that people can actually use our token? That is where the genius reverse mining comes from, is we want to have a way for the users to mine a token, two, to have a way to actually benefit and return the token to the platform and also get paid for that. Right. And then this is twofold. One is to incentivize the trader to actually, providing liquidity from a maker trades perspective. Second is also helping the entire platform, including the user, to manage the supply of the BTMX. Right. So when you reverse mining it, basically the token will be sent to a permanent address for permanent lockup.
Yes.
Subsequently, reducing the total circulation.
Right.
So this is a very effective way of controlling the supply and demand. So
sure.
That basically goes to the second point I was going to say. Token economics for any token, it's very important to come up with different way to manage supply and demand. So it's very much like central bank. They have various of different operation to manage the supply and the circulation of their own currencies. So reverse mining is a very unique but very intuitive way of managing that.
Right, and in that respect, Ariel, again, we're going to go in detail in another subsequent interview with regard to the token economic model. But one thing that you make very clear is that by reducing the token supply, essentially, or that circulating supply, that is going to undoubtedly add to the value of your utility token because you're increasing the scarcity of this token.
Yes, and then also people remember, number one, they do get the rebate.
Right.
Number two, they actually, because of their providing the liquidity, they actually get to have the privilege return the token. So it's like a full cycle. You have to somehow consume your token, right? There are various ways of consuming it, and by reverse mining it, it's very systemic.
Sure.
You can see that.
Right. Now, to do this well, you need to be transparent. That's one of your core strengths that you claim. Can you explain to us how you can prove that you are very transparent and also how you are very secure as well?
From a transparency perspective, I think the showcase, there's nobody else but George himself. He's very transparent with the community, with the users on our platform, in terms of everything going on within Bitmax.
Sure.
Product development to a new product launch to system enhancements. And he rigorously engaged in various of different dialogue through the social media. He himself, basically, for every single project launch, which we did 7, the primary listing, he actually conduct AMA himself with the CEO of the projects on both the English, the Chinese channel. And he's always stayed in front of, basically, from a customer support to seek resolutions, to escalate, various of different concerns. And he's always up
right
about
so you're evidencing
transparent.
That. Sure.
Yeah.
So what about with the blockchain transactions? And what about blockchain transactions, that kind of thing as well, Ariel, in terms of full transparency on the blockchain with everything you do?
Everything we do, I'll give you an example. For example, if you go to our homepage, right, if you want to click the permanent lockup, it goes to address. Everybody can see every single day how many token of BTMX got locked up.
Right.
So it is very transparent. That is one simple thing that you can tell. Two, we share every single data on our front page, on our page. And then so any given time, our token in circulation, how many, basically the pool is increasing and how many data sharing rules being given out. And the mining page is wealth of information.
Sure.
And we're updating to the point sometimes close to real time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing. Second, from a listing perspective, when we work with our projects, we always tell them the market making service we provided is very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
That means if you want any transaction record, any trading transaction, we'll provide it to you. And if you want to know any underlying analytics, we'll provide to you.
I see.
And this is where the power of the platform, the database is robust. And when you trade on our platform, you will clearly see as soon as you start place a trade, move an asset from cash account to margin account, every part of the formula will be updated real time.
Right. And that's
this
very
kind
important.
Of transparency,
the trust, that real time.
This kind of transparency, to be honest with you, having worked on Wall Street for a long time, it's very hard to achieve. Even if you are a trader sitting in front of your terminal, it's very hard because there's always latencies somewhere. So for us, the platform we build is very robust. And the guys are very seasoned in what they're doing. They're all coming from high frequency trading shops. So this is something from transparency perspective. One is the communication. Two is our customer service support is also very transparent. Three is really about information sharing on the platform. Very transparent.
Sure.
Four is about when you're working with a partner, like listing partners, if they need data, if they want to drill down to understand who's buying, who's selling, and what's the trending, we'll definitely provide the data as well.
Got it. Well, thank you for that explanation. Now, I want to talk about security because obviously this is a market for all about money, and you're managing money essentially by being an exchange. Crypto to crypto, yes, but still related to real economies and even leads back to fiat for those who can find ways to access that. Now, in that respect, people need to trust you all the way down to knowing your security measures. How have you gone about trying to protect the interests of those who are utilizing your platform?
So first, just for clarification, Bitmax.io right now is crypto to crypto, so there's no fiat involved. And what we take very seriously is really security. Absolutely, the entire banking system is built upon trust and security. And then coming from the bank, cybersecurity is always number one from a risk management perspective, operationally. For our perspective, we treat it very, very carefully. So the firewalls that we constantly doing testings, and before we launch the platform, we've actually engaged an external partner to actually basically test our systems. And we also have external experts review our overall design. And those experts are coming from traditional, trading platform that used to serve the exchange, right? And then on particularly security, because we're not doing fiat, so it's a very different story. It is all about how you're managing hot wallet and cold wallet.
Got it.
So the design we have is besides all the nomenclature about multi-signatures, the firewall, for the design of hot wallet and cold wallet, without going to the technicality of it, we have a very robust and agile threshold system. So we can monitor and adapt as well as changing our threshold between what's going to cold wallet almost in real-time basis. Okay?
Sure.
i.e., meaning if there is a huge amount of activity and if somehow our analytics tells us there is certain, because of maybe some other exchange have some problem with their security, what we can do as precaution, we can dynamically change, we can actually reduce the hot wallet threshold.
I see.
And
so you
real
essentially
time move to cold wallet.
Right.
Yes.
So real time, you can combat the Mount Gox problems we've seen in the past.
Exactly.
Got it.
So it's
now
like
that's
real
important.
time changing. I can tell you are the first one to know.
Okay.
I have never been very explicit about it, because if it's crypto from fiat regulatory perspective, there's no requirement because it's crypto to crypto.
Sure.
However, from the safety and protection of our users, our system is very resilient in a way. We have definitely the firewall, multiple different signature requirement and multiple review from a withdrawal procedure governance perspective. But from a design perspective, we have a hot wallet, cold wallet threshold.
Well, that's really interesting. That's interesting for the protection of people utilizing the platform. Right now, crypto to crypto, as you say, but the reason why I mentioned fiat is because simply your token has value and people can go and utilize that value in some respects on the market. But again, obviously you're thinking ahead, and then it'll be interesting to see how this leads in the future. But I wanted to talk to you about surveillance as well, because my understanding is that you also have built in a very strong system to make sure if there's any anomalous activity, if there's any problematic activity that it could somehow just affect the system, you really hit that quickly on the head and resolve it.
Yeah, like I said, the system is built by a whole bunch of Wall Street high-frequency quant guys. Mm-hmm. And from a quantitative trading perspective, it's all about identify pattern. And so if there's any abnormal trading behavior, whether it's from a spread or from a volume or from basically just from certain specific region, IP, or from normally sheer volume perspective, we actually monitor pretty robustly and dynamically.
I see.
So we can quickly notice there's some abnormal, I wouldn't say abusing activity. Mm-hmm. If there's any abnormal trading behavior with particularly trading pair or particularly hour or particularly region, our tech guy will identify, and then literally there will be report going to George and me.
Right. So that adds to the trust.
Then we take a look at it to decide, well, that sometimes we can quickly decide, oh, you know what, we just run a promotional event for certain project. And that project, for example, is based in, particularly region. And suddenly we see the spike of trading from that particularly region, which is, we basically say, well, that's normal.
Right? I understand.
And then if we suddenly see a huge amount of trading and then basically driving up the price and then suddenly pump the price down, we also will see that pattern and we will literally identify the trading activity, where the counts come from, mm-hmm. and we'll take certain action about it. We'll give them a warning.
Got it.
Basically about, well, we notice some, unusual behavior in your accounts, which basically drive up the price and pump the price down. So mm-hmm. this is not something according to the user agreements that we will be permitted, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a very, how should I say, dynamic monitoring system.
And clearly it's also stringent.
Kind of across.
It's also stringent. You're not going to tolerate pump and dump systems.
No, this is where it's again goes back to where George and I come from. It's very much coming from regulatory market that they're watching. If there's accidental, for example, if you accidentally cross your order against yourself, mm-hmm. accidental is fine, but not a very much highly frequent pattern. Do you see my point? It's about pattern recognition.
And you have something to build that in. So we appreciate, as some people who are trying to learn more about your system, that you have those built in. I think that's really imperative that you do so. Now, with regard to products, obviously you're planning with George and your whole team to build more, to add value, to make the system more robust. And we'll discuss them in another interview, hopefully, and really explore what you offer. But I wanted to talk to you about the 7 projects right now, Ariel, because everyone's talking about some of them. What's the process? What's the process of deduction, of analysis, of onboarding? Talk us through exactly how you do it, who does it, and why you've chosen these 7.
Yeah, I think it's a very comprehensive question, Bradley. So what I'll do is I'll bring it down first from a process, right? Second, I will talk about listing criteria, right? The third, I will talk to you a bit about the 7 projects and how we went about it, what really happened behind the scene in terms of how exactly we opened, right? So the process is quite straightforward. So when we first launched our exchange, we're not that famous. So we've got an institutional sales team. They're very active, working with the various different crypto communities to actually getting a lot of leads. So from a listing process perspective, we've got a couple steps. Number 1 is either we identify the leads or people reaching out to us about the leads. Mm-hmm. And number 2, what we do is we have a listing committee. Basic listing committee, it consists of the sales people as well as George and I, and have a legal representation. And we also have a smart contract experts from a technology perspective. And so basically 6 or 7 of us will review the opportunity, right? We will do our own initial review in terms of understanding the business model, understanding some of technicality of the token economics, like you said, to really come to whether are they utility token what kind of token are they, right?
And
And then
also if
simultaneously,
they are appropriate for the industry or not, because some of them are just simply crap.
yes, this is where we get to the second aspect. So the process, once we, now of course, this due diligence is not just we close the door behind the door. We'll have a, quite interactive discussions with the potential project to understand, to learn about them, right? To get to especially know their vision, their future plan, just to get to know them, right? Know your customer, that kind of perspective. And once we felt very comfortable, what we do, there's a specific documentation we'll send out to the promising projects. It's called listing requirements. And that requirement documentation goes from just you've asked me about your mission, your development, your roadmap, and your business model. And it also goes beyond just the simple economics. We'll ask them about their community, about the size. And we also ask about, there's private sales, initial pricings, circulations,
It's quite detailed,
quantitative.
Isn't it?
It's very detailed. And then we also ask them their objectives in terms of what they want to achieve through the listing and through the marketing. So it's very comprehensive. So by actually going through the listing requirement gathering process, the project themselves sometimes can benefit from this structured approach, actually put their thoughts together to really think seriously about how they're going about it and what's the usage for the funding, right? And how do they want to organize their business in preparation for that.
So essentially it's not an easy process as well. If they want to list with Bitmax, you're saying they need to be serious on their side too.
Yeah, so this listing requirements questionnaire will send out. They fill it back, and they will also send back to us about some of their basic legal documentation formation. And then our legal will start do the due diligence, while the business will carry on the negotiation in terms of understanding their needs. So what we offer from a listing is we have overarching listing process. And then we also include, if you're doing primary listing, we'll do a lot of the free marketing campaign with you. And then if you have any specific marketing requirements, we can make tailor-made marketing campaign, branding awareness, that kind of thing with you.
So you support them all the way in every sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because we see this as a long-term partnership. And we also have very much customized market making service, which is built upon the designated market making model coming from the traditional exchange. So there's a multiple level of discussion, review, and negotiation to finalize the overall list. So when you at the end of this process, we finish the due diligence, we finish the negotiation, the pricing, then we sign the agreement. And then we will kickstart all the implementation based upon the services.
I see. Now, Ariel, I want to pull back one moment. Now, with regard to the discussion of utility, I would assume, given that you are a proponent of real business, you come from the real traditional sector, surely the companies that you onboard have real purpose, have real proven utility. Can you talk us through that? What technologists do you have to really ensure the rigor is properly implemented to make sure these aren't just pump and dump projects, but they actually can do something?
So from a project listing review process, generally we have 4 criteria, and it's pretty well-rounded and very holistic the way I see it. First, it's really understand the business model, their economic model, right? The viability of that, the sustainability of that. And 2 is to really understand basically what is their user base, meaning using that particular blockchain technology or their particular business model. Are they growing? What kind of partnership they have in their industry, right? And number 3, we're actually looking at their community, because it's very, as a blockchain, one thing that is very different from any other industry is blockchain is decentralized. It's rooted in community. So we'll do a thorough detailed analysis of their community size, their past relationship and future partnership with their community, just like how we Bitmax build our own community. You need a community support, right? So we assess their community. Number 4, we're actually looking at their team, the team's background, expertise, as well as their comprehensive funding source, meaning we have to verify to some extent, right? Certain things we can, certain things we have to verify. For example, if they say, well, in a private sale, we raised, number of Ether, then we would, on behalf of our users, we would say, could you share with us the dress? Could you actually demonstrate that you actually raised?
Sure. So you demand full transparency in that context.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's demand, but we would ask them, and then we wouldn't put them. But it's, again, you always have to ask and hope for the best, basically.
Sure.
And then, for example, I can give you an example. I don't know what about QuickText, the project.
Right.
So we were going to launch, and then we actually pulled back because there was certain uncertainty and concern from the community about the project, i.e., we didn't see a lot of the deposit, and then we didn't see a lot of activity.
Right.
And then we actually pulled back the listing for a day, and we went back to the project asking for quite a bit of information as well as explanation. So we go back to our community to say we've done our further analysis.
I see. So you're listening to your community and responding when they say to check something.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where the 4 criteria, when we look at each project, I have to say that especially you look at the last 7, several of them, we actually been talking and getting to know the project, understanding their business model for several months.
Sure.
And for example,
what about, right, well, let's talk about Anchor in that context with regard to enterprise. I did want to raise that question. Do you also look at enterprise potential, meaning, the business on the blockchain, how this can grow and prosper and evolve, and more importantly, have that token velocity to really go ahead and be something real?
Yeah, that's part of the evaluate the business model. So exactly, basically, a lot of time, idea is idea, concept is concept. You have to really see how much they've developed from a simple concept.
Right.
Do they have the technology? And then do they have a viable business model, i.e., where do they make money?
Right.
And does it make sense? And it's not just making sense for genius people. Does it make sense for common people,
Sure.
like people with common sense?
And is there a user base for the product?
Exactly. And then who is using it? Have they started deploying their technology? So when I quickly look at LTO, for example, LTO network, and I didn't drill down, again, I'm not a techie, I didn't drill down to the technicality of it. But when I first talked to Rick and Ivan, they were explaining what they're trying to use the blockchain for. They're trying to solve some, legal processing, optimization around streamlining for particularly government. When I heard about it the first time, I was like, oh, that makes sense to me. Because every time I go to the government, I have to fill out so many paperwork and takes so long. And you just never know where we are and so it's a simple concept, and you can quickly see where the users in the blockchain can get benefit from it.
Sure.
And also, ultimately, whoever is going to buy the technology is going to be benefit its efficiency, right? So this is something we actually try to understand from a traditional finance perspective.
Sure. And
bottom line is, yeah, go ahead.
Sure. And you mentioned Anchor as well. Now, obviously, they're quite a nascent company. They're just really embarking on their journey. But what was it that prompted you? Because there's criticisms and there's also, support for Anchor in different respects. But essentially, what drove you, as one example of these 7, to really support them?
I think what really, I met Ryan, I think back in December. So again, this is where we're not jumping on any project that we think is good. We have to know those people. So I know Ryan and Chandler, the management team, since actually December or actually end of November. So it's almost the 3-4 months of talking to each other, understanding each other's thought process, the vision, and to see how their idea going to some of the quite interesting strategic partnership they've already announced.
So the boys had to prove, is that what you're saying? They had to prove they had something of merit. It wasn't just a case of, I've met you and we have, we can do something together, but you took it seriously and took it to your team. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, actually, first of all, they actually really went through their business model with me, and it actually makes sense. Again, makes sense. I'm not a technologist. It makes sense to me from a business perspective, especially a person like me having like close to 20-year experience across all the big corporations.
Right.
What they're trying to solve is a very common business problem for any enterprise, using your words. Basically, the computing power, how you harness it, how you maximize it. So there's always idle computing power somewhere.
Right.
And then it's because you buy those package from AWS or from Amazon, right? Amazon, it's like a monopoly. So you buy the package. There's no way for you to customize it. So when Ryan told me this idea and just asking me, say, how do I feel about, all those
Wasted.
cloud
Yes.
storage
Right.
that I've never tapped into, but I'm paying monthly fee for that. How do I feel about it? And if there's a way for me to actually share, to actually optimize it, will I sign up for that service? I
Right.
actually find it very compelling because it's a very common business problem. And I don't think corporations have been trying their best to resolve it. They know it's inefficient, but they haven't come across a very nifty solution to fix
Right.
it. So basically, when they brought this up, it actually really made it very compelling business case for me. And then when I also assess their business concept, I do understand they're very young and they have this great passion and vision. And then the next step comes into is really assessing their team capability, their delivery, their roadmap. And this is where they're very, how should I say, very credible team comes standing. They've got experience. They've got hardcore understanding the people who have done this in the industry. And when I'm looking at their advisors, a lot of them are actually very reputable. And so from that perspective, I feel a little bit more comfortable.
Right.
And then as the last couple of months goes, right, there is always a good news here, there in terms the mature industry players are looking at them and they have different partnership or negotiation going on with them. So I think this is a promising steps towards adoption.
And it's interesting you did all this process pre-listing. I think that's the imperative. We want to hear that you are doing that kind of, you're approaching it with rigor and with seriousness and with a team of different skill sets, some technologists, some with your background. Obviously, the legal is imperative. But it's a bit like the way in which funds approach this, Ariel. That's what I'm hearing from you, is that funds have to make a huge amount of, they take huge risks in the projects they onboard. So is it really the same process in a nutshell, though, that you have to, for your exchange to work, you have to get these right. You can't afford to be wrong too many times because people simply won't trust your exchange.
Yeah, that's exactly the basic, the standard that we're striving for is the exchange is built on trust. It's built on high quality delivery from a customer service to projects. And from day one, George made it very clear to pretty much everybody is we rather listing fewer projects than listing a whole bunch of not so great projects.
Great.
We want to be very selective.
I like the way you said that politely, because clearly you're not about crap. You're not about crypto crap. You want to be about quality. But let's talk about the controversial elephant in the room, and that is the price changes recently. We saw a huge influx in the recent days with regard to the price action. What happened there, Ariel? Why on earth did it suddenly change from such a low point of value that was so stable, almost like a stable coin for that time?
Yes.
Something crazy.
Yes. I think the way I'm looking at it is always there is the technicality of certain momentum. And also there is second part is about recognition of our vision from a progressive transformation aspects of changing the crypto from a very short-term speculative perspective to a medium long-term investment. And that is how they shine through our ecosystem, shine through our token economics. So let's address the first technicality. Sure. I think the price has appreciated. To be honest with you, it was a surprise to us as well. We had it started, I think it was a Wednesday night when George and I, Wednesday night New York time, when George and I are hosting our monthly team meeting with everybody. Okay. And in the middle of the team meeting, we were looking at it because we always look at our, exchange. And we suddenly realized, oh my God, there's 34% jump. At the beginning, the joke was about
a price increase.
30%. Yeah, it's a price increase, 34%. And at the beginning, everybody was very much like, oh my God, this is funny. We were just talking about our vision, our strategy.
Is it possible, Ariel? Is it possible, sorry to interrupt, but is it possible some of the team members at the town hall at this monthly meeting had their phones out and were texting to say, this is good. What's going on? How did it actually happen? How could it happen if it happened with your meeting?
No, it was so funny. The funny thing was the meeting, one of the purpose of the meeting is for George and I as a co-founders to actually talk to the team about vision and the strategic plan of 2019.
Right.
And the strategic plan of 2020, we're very transparent. Actually, there was an interview by ICO Analytics that was published in February the 14th or the 15th, including a huge paragraph about Bitmax.io strategic plan. So there was nothing that we were talking about.
Nothing
and
to hide.
Technicality, exactly, technicality. What really drives that is, I cannot tell you, one is really about a lot of the listings that we recently launched have been doing well. And then they actually brought a lot of people to our, to take a look at our platform. Two, because of success of our reverse mining and transaction mining, our trading volume has been actually climbing. And then from a coin market cap perspective, last couple of weeks, we've kind of moved up, especially on the reported volume perspective, up to the chain to top 5, sometimes even top 2 or top 1. Right, that's number 2, technicality. Number 3 is the upcoming listing. So we have BNB, Binance token. We launched margin trading, and then we're going to launch margin trading with BTMX as one of the eligible trading pairs, as well as BNB. Right, those things, technicality, created a momentum in terms of the need to buying our token. That's the technicality.
And is it possible also that some of the news also got out, that there's the prospect of more listings coming, there's more in the pipeline? Also, I noticed even in George's tweets, he was literally showing some interest in certain startups. So the word's getting out, but it was still a very sharp and very abrupt change. It wasn't something that happened over days. It was bang on. All of a sudden, this price just went crazy. So it is, a lot of people are saying, why did it happen so abruptly? And is it because all this information is just simply starting to happen?
I think that if you're looking at the three pieces I've just talked about from a technical aspect, they're all happening within last week.
Okay.
And if you stayed in our Telegram group as well as WeChat, we do the weekly updates to our community very frequently. And we're very transparent. If you pull the latest, basically the updates for the community, you will see what the team has accomplished in this week or the last 3 days.
Right.
What's
so it's
upcoming?
been really substantial.
Yeah. What's upcoming in terms of listing, product, platform enhancement. I actually did a margin trading tutorial myself. And then literally when the margin trading was launched in mid of February, as well as we launched a couple new listings, you will see the daily active users. It literally was tripled and quadrupled over the last 5 business days, I have to tell you. So this, in crypto, everything happened real fast. And then there's the word of mouth, it catches on. And so this is all the technicality. When George and I, peel the onion and look into it, there was 3 elements we see. One is really the more people know about Bitmax, the deeper they dig into our platform, they more realize, one is our economic models truly work, meaning our exchange model, our reverse mining model, our we're the first one who have reverse mining. We're the first one who have a concept of data sharing reward pool.
Right.
So it's very special. And then that's the economic model. Second, people recognize, because of the economic model, because how we design running our token economics works too. We're shining example of that.
Let's talk about that though for a moment in terms of the graph, because the implications are, as you mentioned, all these things have been gradual, but then suddenly this last week, things have really been put in action and just demonstrated and articulated through your social media channels. But when you look at it from a more longitudinal analysis, there hasn't been a lot of price action, a lot of changes for quite some time. It's been relatively stable for some time. So what was happening in that period of time? Why was that so stable for so long and not gradually increasing as we would expect?
Okay, so if you look at, we launched transaction mining on November the 18th, right? And then that was the big bang. First day we had 1.6 billion notional. And then the first week we had an average of 500 million trading volume every single day. What happened afterwards is we ran right into a bear market.
Right.
Okay, so I always put everything happened into a macro concept. So the market was very depressed, basically from Thanksgiving of United States all the way till January. So you can see the Bitcoin price and the rest with the rest of the crypto currency prices being quite depressed. And then the market is very quiet and people are pretty much looking for direction, right? So what happened with us is that is where we did three things. One is we started to listing very high quality projects. So we listed Lambda. We listed several projects around Christmas time, started the warm up. And then mid of January, we list LTO. And then simultaneously, besides the listing, we're building up a quick pipeline. And what comes in, the vacuum, it comes in February. February is Chinese New Year. So at the beginning, we had 4 listings in the month of February, including Anchor. And all of them got postponed till March. So it's kind of like delayed gratification. And then what happened instead in February is during the downtime or the bear market, what we do is our entire team focusing on platform enhancement. We keep enhancing our product, enhancing our platform, make it better usage, better user friendly. And we're looking at, launching the APPs and H5. And also we spend a lot of time working on margin product. And we come up with various different way for the users to see and to use our BTMX. So what we did is we perfect our ecosystem. We launch new product with margin trading. All those 2 things are happening in February.
So you're using the bear to build.
Yes. So when the March comes in, all the listing, which was supposed to happen in February, got pushed out to March.
So now it's the start.
And then simultaneously, if you're looking at the Bitcoin pricing recovery, they stabilize it very nicely, and they had a nice little recovery, and they stabilize it. This kind of behavior from a trading perspective, it's formulate a nice support for the future development.
Well, let's talk about that from all of your experience, because no one really in the team other than you has the degree of Wall Street experience than you. And now we see this huge price spike. Are you concerned at all about pullbacks and dumping? Or do you think this is something that's going to plateau incrementally from your experience, given that you are literally starting this platform and expect to onboard several projects each month at least?
So this is, again, goes back to the third element of the token economics. It is really about a balance between the economic model and market force. So from a market force perspective, it's when the token got circulation and traded so much to the point is it's not being controlled, for example, by the exchange. There is a natural force of buying and selling. What it comes down to is we all want to understand who is buying for what purpose, who is selling for what purpose, and how does that affect the ecosystem. So go back to the BTMX pricing. I'm very bad in terms of predicting the price. So if you notice the price trend, it actually really skyrocketed to about 9.7 US cents, right? And it got pulled back quite drastically over the last 24 hours. And it actually stabilized it. So for this kind of thing, I think the spike, I personally, from my looking at it, is when you have such huge run, it really is very eye-catching, especially in a very active user community.
Especially in a very speculative one.
Exactly. So you will naturally see huge amount of interest pouring into BTMX. So that drives the price to the point it's not sustainable. And then it got pulled back. Now what's happening, like I said, the next couple of days, there's a lot of things next week. If you look at the now announcement, there's a lot of DOS, and there's actually next week, we're going to launch margin trading, our BTMX, and launch margin trading on BNB.
So you've got a lot of pipeline
product aspects, there's listing aspects. So how the price is going to do in the next few days is, again, going back to the market force. If people are expecting huge amount of utilization out of BTMX and they would like to hold and buy into it, sure, there will be a price
And,
appreciation.
and Ariel,
if there are more people are taking the opportunity, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you with regard all of your
Mhm.
experience in Wall Street. This is an important one. I've never had the chance to ask someone. Now, in Wall Street, in all of the different IPOs that exist and then become viable businesses, clearly news and announcements and developments really matter because investors are paying attention. Is that any different to what you're doing? Because I don't see a difference. I see that you respect the power of release of information. And as long as it's credible and accurate and verified, surely you know, as anyone can assume from your experience, that's going to have an impact on the people, the respect people have for the utility. Whether they are investors in that utility or not, in that paradoxical statement, they still see a value in that utility. And they couple that with release of information.
So this is interesting. The question is very good. And from a security trading aspects of it, any information that will move the market has to be released to public simultaneously, meaning you can't release on one channel, not the other channel.
Right.
So it basically goes back to maintain the fairly and orderly market. And it's not just a trading shop's responsibility. It's not just exchange response. It is actually comes down to each corporation. So meaning when you have a market moving piece of information, you can't just tell one exchange or you can't just tell one aspect of your investor. You have to release publicly simultaneously. So this is transparency we also kind of carried to our own business operation, for example. So if we have announcements, when announcement goes out, the only difference I can tell you right now, I wish I could, I will make it better, is really the English version has to be reviewed by me. So sometimes it takes a bit of delay. I'm the bottleneck a little bit. So when there's announcements, we were always trying to go out simultaneously, English, Chinese. And if there's a delay, it's basically I have to review
a translation
issue.
And I think that's important because it's not happening with every project.
Yeah, but when we release it, I can tell you it's quite streamlined, meaning we'll drop it to WeChat, Telegram, we'll publish on Zendesk, and George will do the Twitter referring to the Zendesk. And then it is all multi-channel simultaneously shooting out because we want to reach out as many people as possible in the shortest period of time.
So you also want to be fair as possible as well and give everyone the fair amount of access. And that's why it harks back to that question again of that sudden price change so that people can understand. Because if people don't trust that there is that full and robust transparent approach where you can apply this immediately to all channels, then it's going to be an issue because some projects are simply not doing that, Ariel. Some of them are spreading the information sequentially across to benefit certain parties.
Yeah, that I like I said, I have been very busy. I don't comment on how other people behave. But I'm only speaking to what we think is the right thing for our community, our user, our project, our investors, right? Because this is all the key stakeholders we're looking at. And the jokes around is sometimes in our team, sometimes we always tell developers like, well, if you forgot your delivery date, go to the Telegram. You'll find it there. That's your delivery. That's your due date.
Because it's all stated.
Because George felt so obligated that he has to be so transparent with the community, everything going on with our development. When we change a timeline, when we have a delay, we'll let the community know so that they will trust us. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you is when we work with listing projects, right? There is a professional ethics is about information confidentiality, and we understand the sensitivity around it. So we've always asked our project anything. We always ask them, when do you want us to publish the press release? When do you want us to inform our community? And when do you finalize your date, your time? Once they approve it, we'll tell. Even though some people will keep pressing it in all sorts of channels. When are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? We always very carefully say, please stay tuned. Please check our announcement channel. As soon as we had agreement with project, we'll let you know. Because we have to get their approval before we can say anything. And things could change, as you know, in crypto world.
Absolutely. Now, in that context also, my understanding is that you don't take, just because you have a focus on trying to be a primary issuing platform for these, or onboarding them as a primary service, doesn't mean that you always want to be the sole service for them. My understanding is that you work with other exchanges, fully supporting them as they build out. So can you comment on that process and how you do that?
Yeah, this is going back to what's special about Bitmax.io, the team behind it. And the team are real traders. They're building the real trading system. They know what's best, what they can do, and they've got real trading experience. So a lot of time, you don't want to buy too big an apple, or
Right.
you don't want to buy too big a pie. So one key element we're looking at statistically is your circulation.
Mm-hmm.
When we realize you have a project that has a very large circulation or large amount of circulation, and we're looking at what is typical capital requirement and what is happened on our trading platform from a volatility as well as a trading volume perspective, we'll make a suggestion to them. Sometimes lately a lot of projects come to us with pretty significant circulation, initial circulation. What we would suggest to them, we're very transparent and honest with them, saying, you know what, from our exchange, based upon our trading volume, our user, I think it's too big.
Got it.
And I think we should have a partner with so and so. And then also we can tell them, because your technology is more recognized in particular region, or user base are particular region, maybe you should partner with exchange in that particular region.
I see.
To benefit that particular user group.
So you're really you're supportive of a multitude of different exchanges based on niche.
Yeah, we are very pragmatic. We want to do what's best for the project.
Got it.
We're not one of those people saying, oh, I want everything. No, pragmatically, we need to know what we can do for you. What is the best for you? I don't want to overpromise and under-deliver.
I like it. We're hearing a lot of these statements as well, and for those real deal companies that want to actually do something that's meaningful, pragmatic, and something that can benefit all parties, not just Bitmax, but the actual companies that are on board. Now, what's planned with regard to the future, Ariel? You are the co-founder. You no doubt know the pipeline better than anyone except George. So what's planned now that you've got this influx, you've got this momentum, you've got all these projects onboarding? No doubt you have a plan for a minimum, and you have each month coming. How are you approaching this? Because some exchanges are listing, for example, we've seen Binance's Launchpad with one a month, or perhaps that will change. What's your approach? Are you minimizing, or are you maximizing the potential, or are you just going for it with whatever comes?
I think I'm taking a very much a business planning and management perspective. Every single sales organization needs a target. So there is a target. However, we're pragmatic by looking at it from a market perspective.
Right.
So ideally, we would like to have one listing per week. And that's ideally. However, we've definitely put quality first, then the sheer amount of meeting the quantitative targets. And also, I personally think as the blockchain develops, as the crypto trading matures, big player comes in, there are a lot more sophisticated players out there. So listing process, as well as launching the particularly opening market that day, you will get a lot more systematic. Second, it's going to get a lot more dynamic.
Right.
So we treat every listing very, very carefully. So we don't want to have a huge amount of listing crushed into like a week or two. So every time when we discuss with our project, we always tell them, here's our calendar, here's what our suggestion is. We don't want to rush into it.
Got it.
And we don't want just to say, well, today I have to do 3 listings because I want to do this.
So can we expect, though, give us a bit of a ballpark, though, because you can. What can we expect? What kind of numbers are you talking for minimums per month, for example, with the way you approach it? Because obviously you still have to have business yourself. Are you taking that approach in your business model?
Yeah, we do have assumptions. You have to build up the certain assumptions, right? And you have to actually set out objective for the institutional sales team, as just for ourselves as well. So technically, I have to tell you, from a business planning perspective, 1 per week is we definitely striving for that.
Right,
And I
that's
can tell
fast.
you,
That's
March,
fast moving.
for one per week. This is what the business plan says. And
Sure.
then you look at the March, because the February, because of all the project got delayed from February to moving to March. So March has a very busy calendar. So we've got almost pipeline, including a couple of them that happened last week. We've got pipeline 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then in April, we've got a couple as well. And beyond that, it really goes back to the market
Ariel,
dynamics.
it's almost like a calendar that you're quickly filling month by month, because
yes,
obviously now with the influx in your price, with the attention garnered by just the sheer popularity of your project, I would imagine many different very reputable chains are knocking on your door now. Some with high volumes, some that perhaps aren't going to be suited to you right now, given your context. But are you indeed getting these calls and getting these door knocks where people are simply saying, look, we're listening, we want to discuss with you the potential of a partnership? Are you finding there's an influx in business flow?
Yeah, it has been. I think last couple of days with the momentum, definitely. It actually definitely there's a lot more. I would think it's a lot more pronounced interest. Okay,
Right.
we've always had a lot of discussion, to be honest with you, ongoing, and it's just suddenly there are a lot more people reaching out to us in terms of trying to understanding our criteria, understanding our listing process. So to the point that right now, I think over this weekend, one of the technology enhancement is actually to put the listing application on our website.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
I appreciate that transparency.
Exactly. The things I just spoke to you about, the different question we've asked from a business model, economics, to your initial circulation, to your user base, and also your founder's backgrounds, your team structure, all those
Everything.
questions. We're putting that standard document on the website.
Right,
So we're
and
very
we appreciate
transparent.
that. We appreciate that willingness to do so, because we've seen other projects that haven't necessarily done that. Not to say that they should need to, but it's been a question certainly played out in the crypto sphere about what the processes are. You're making it real. You're letting everyone know, and obviously we've covered a great deal of information today. Next time we talk, hopefully we'll really focus on key aspects of Bitmax and continue to have more discussions. But today, Ariel, I want to thank you on behalf of all those who wanted to know about Bitmax a little bit more. You've really been transparent about the listing aspects. You've addressed some of the concerns that the community would no doubt have about that sudden spike. But thank you again for just giving us that key information we need to be able to trust what's happening on the blockchain. You are the co-founder. There's a lot of stuff happening, as you mentioned, as the pipeline builds. And I look forward to seeing how you evolve in the next few months. And thank you again very much for your time. Is there anything you'd like to say to finish off?
Thank you so much, Bradley. I appreciate the opportunity having a chance to talk to you and talk to your community. And if there's any questions, we're very happy, George, and I'm very happy to answer anything, any concerns, any feedback. We definitely would like to hear from you, and especially any suggestion, any improvements. And we're always on the lookout for things like that, because at the end of the day, the ecosystem, we need everybody to help out to make it stronger, make it more transparent, and make it more resilient.
Absolutely. Well, Ariel, thank you
very much.
You're very welcome. If you'd like to know more about Bitmax, make sure you check out the links below. They will be there. This was a free interview. I received no compensation for this, but I do want to make it very clear that I certainly did invest in Bitmax. It's no secret. I make it transparent in my description. I did so with my own money, with my own choices. And I suggest all of you to do the same, do your own research, and know exactly what's going on in the blockchain. Thank you, Ariel, for your time, and I'll certainly speak with you soon.
Thank you very much, Bradley. Appreciate it.